Good evening and welcome again to the Digital Excellence Pharma Academy, a joint initiative of CredoWeb and Medicine Man to upskill Indian pharma sales and marketing professionals to help them onward in their digital adoption journey. It's now 6 months since we began the webinars and the question answer sessions on Digital Excellence Pharma Academy, and there is a whole library of videos that are available to you at any time on many different topics that are relevant and useful to the pharma sales and marketing professionals. We have a whole lot of videos on leadership and sales and marketing and patient centricity, Salesforce effectiveness, and go to market models. So you can view this at any point of time at your convenience by registering on www.credoweb.in. And today we have Deep Bhandari once again continuing his series on how we can have a more effective pharma sales organization and what does it take to build an effective sales organization in digital times. We all know that this is the first time that the Indian pharma is facing a very different challenge that it has not encountered before. Patients are not able to see doctors, and doctors are unwilling to see pharma reps. Despite the lockdown being removed, there remains a lot of challenges. And during these challenges, what is the way forward? How can you still build an effective sales organization? So that is what Deep Bhandari will be talking today. So over to you, Deep. I look forward to an interesting session from you. And then on Friday at 5 p.m., we will have a question and answer session. So, my request to all the participants, do participate in the polls, and we will discuss these polls in the next session as well so that you have some insights as to what others are doing and what are the preferences. So do tune in every Wednesday at 5 p.m. and every Friday at 5 p.m. Tell your friends and colleagues about it because this is an entirely free resource. So this is your opportunity to use this time to upskill and be prepared for the challenges going forward. So thank you once again for tuning in and over to you, Deep.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this new webinar of very important topic. So, we are going to talk about today about the Salesforce strategy in this fast changing or rapidly changing digital world. And I guess that there is a lot desirable here than possibly that the current example what meets our eye. And there's a lot of gap in terms of understanding, and this is all due to my interaction in the last 8 months with almost that on everyday basis across the organization hierarchies, the be it leadership, be it the functional heads, or the sales managers, first line managers, or even the customer facing people. So that gives me a tremendous insight on what exactly is happening and what are the gaps, and that's how that this today's webinar is possibly that aim to design little bit more insight into how do you handle the current situation or changing situation as well as the sales force is concerned. So minded that we don't talk any other team as a force. The sales force So those are very, very important and vital things. And why we are talking about? Because they are the powerful driver of revenues. While the most part that the value is unclear, the sales source value is very clearly defined. So let's look at that, the agenda that what we are going to talk about today. We look at the challenge and what's happening. We also look at that how the different function of organization view Salesforce, and then we look at that what the Salesforce strategy and how the Salesforce strategy need to possibly shift a little bit. And if time permits, we're also going to talk about that some early indicators of what exactly is happening here. Okay, so let's dive right in. And but before that, just a moment. If still people, those are not aware, my name is Deep Bhandari, and I am here to share my insight and possibly that help you to make a lasting difference to your careers. I would happy to support and help anybody that in this regard. You can reach me. Here are my coordinates. Okay. Now, if you look back, and I'm not saying that immediately, I have been associated for over 3 decades now, and as I see it, the world that where we live in, the pharmaceutical in India especially was very simple, so simple, and there are many smart people, uh, so they know that it's all about doctors. For number of years or decades, that it's only all about doctors. And there are smart people, they know that how to optimize the sales force. They know exactly that what are the key markets and what the distribution role they can play in this, and that made them hugely successful for number of years. And this is not only the individual, the leaders, but there are many organizations, those who have ability to understand and break this code, and they've been successful. Somewhere in this slide lies also our problem, because we still believe that our world is that simple. While the lot of things have changed, our world is becoming more and more complex and may require a different approaches. Just consider few facts, and there are many others that I have not put there. But the main things, you have a patients, those who are more informed and comorbid. You also have that the physicians' decision making power is shifting, and in many areas that it's quite visible. But I think that is still they will continue to play a very vital role. But then please consider that they are not only the stakeholders, and that's the point that I'm making here. Um, we all know that new technology is transforming the healthcare interactions, and we have seen that especially in last 8 9 months, there's been an acceleration in adoption of various technologies, and with I would say that quite a good number of successful cases. We continue to have what we call downward pressure on pricing and things like that. And there are many other factors that is making our world more complex. So what possibly that what we need to do, and as I said, that there are very few very smart companies and smart people, those who are uh, rethinking that how we support our sales force in this changing world. Um, and that's where the challenge comes. So there are a group of people, those who possibly that have a huge assumption that This is a temporary phase. It's going to pass, and we are going to get back to life as it is. And in point of fact, that many of us have started looking at that. It's back to the normal, and that's where that you look at that in pursuit of value. Is there a room left for Salesforce? Uh, if you look at that, if you're aware this visual, this is from a feature film called Love and Other Drugs. If you're not seen, I will recommend that. Not a great movie, but then if you're in pharmaceutical sales, it I think that you must watch this at least once. This is about a non-fictional work, and of course that this is exaggerated and things like that. It's not though it's non-fictional, but then it's also not real. This is about the evolution of Viagra sales rep, and very interesting movie. Okay, having said that, let's look at that. What's exactly is happening, and I'm sure that what you're going to see now, you might have seen before, if you're active on social media. If not, I think that it's time that you must be, in sync with the reality of the sales world. uh, Detailing to webcam, and you ask question that is this what we call face-to-face selling? Is this what we call a personal selling? A little bit more organized, but then still that you see uh, what's happening here uh, is largely what we call it is a monologue, and this cannot be. This is all what we call it is a product centric, uh, reminding product, reminding uh, maybe the most economical is available, and this is I would say that less than uh, few seconds is the time that which is there. uh, Street retailer, right? So look at that, what kind of challenge and issues uh, the sales force really and how they are weathering it. This is something that which is very recent, as recent as about yesterday afternoon, when one of our colleague and friend, former managing director of a multinational organization, he was there in the clinic of a doctor, and he witnessed not one, but as many as 6 reps lasting a few seconds, and the message is always same. You might have seen that many of such challenges with the doctor saying that you're banned, you're not welcome here. Even the association saying these things are saying. Then we fast forward, and then we come to very close to about a month back, and this is the tweet. Uh, so a group of doctors raised this a kind of quick poll, which I think that 62 doctors responded. Is saying what should be done with medical reps who message you about their product or upcoming meetings at midnight just because you are seen online. The cross stands for stop using their product. So about 68% said they blocked them. About 13% said give a piece of your mind. 1.6% said that entertain them uh, by stop using their products, and about 18% suggested that escalate to their managers. Okay. Now There's another doctor uh, talk about that. That will be good. I was just having my dinner and a bloke called me thrice. I have given it to him beautifully. Hope it's recorded and they will listen to it again and again and again. Look at the sentiment, look at the emotions in the voice, and what they're voicing here. And then you look at that some of the industry people that what you're talking about that if any medical rep resists the WhatsApp phone call to doctors, his salary is deducted and disciplinary proceedings are started. Please ask your friend, and there's a name of company for obvious reason that I am right. They have deducted salaries up to 50 days and issued a warning letters. Now, look at that, and these are not an isolated examples that we are talking about of one or two companies. I think that this is largely uh, I'm not saying that every company is like there are. I always said that there are very few very smart companies and very smart leaders. They have very different approach. But then you have also that on other hand, these are the also realities and which are available for us either to deny, accept, and change, or possibly that hope that things will get whatever the way they are. So that's where I think that at least a good number of companies and leaders are very hopeful. When I say very hopeful, uh, that's what they think. What if we don't change at all and something magical just happen? Uh, if something magical happens and transform the situation, I think that that's something uh, really great. But as a professional, I think that we must do what really that make us a change agent in this situation, rather than hoping something magical just happen. Okay, that's what brings me to the fact, and again that I'm basing this fact is by my interaction with the number of people, not only in last 8 months, but over a period of time. I have begun to realize that uh, when you look at that understanding of sales force or sales organization within the company by different people is like that the childhood we all uh, heard this story about the six blind men and an elephant, and each one of them uh, talking about what the elephant is like. And obviously that there are different perspective. There are why, because they believe and they experience uh, sales organization or sales force very differently, and I can't blame them. But then they look or miss what that the holistic point of view, because they are not aware of the full situation. And that's what it is, that generally that I have seen the decision are made the way that they perceive a part of it. For example, that's very common to see that the way the finance look sales organization from the cost point of view, that Salesforce is a huge cost. So anything comes, that first is that cost containment, restrict travel or whatever that you need to do and things like that. So largely that when you look at the sales organizations are complex and difficult to understand, therefore extremely challenging to lead and develop. Uh, and the reason, as we said, that different function have a different perspective, leading to a very distinct point of view. And that's what that possibly that uh, uh, this webinar is an effort to put the everything into a perspective and then say that how the sales, how possibly we can understand the sales organization, and when, especially that when we are taking decision, we must know that how one part impacts the other. So it's very important that how we integrate each of these things in order to work in as a well aligned or well oiled one single machinery. Okay. Uh, uh, and that brings me to that summarize that what I see that what sales excellence is, and what are the challenges today that we face as a sales force. Uh, to me, sales excellence is a piece of art because they need to look at creatively the solutions. Each situation is new, require a very different kind of handling. So there's not one thing that fits into every situation. Having said that, sales excellence is also science because we know very clearly there are very proven things. If we put on those mechanism, it's going to work. And possibly I think that next few minutes I'm going to tell you that few examples that why we talk about the science and why we say that there's certain things which are proven. Um, Whether we like it or not, sales excellence require a lot of hard work. That whether we say that only smart work, not really, but hard work, and also what we call it in addition to hard work is that discipline in execution, which is important. So these are the factors that makes Salesforce excel, and these are very primary and very important. Let's look at the challenges of Salesforce. And we know already, and so we're not going to spend too much of time, but then it's important to just verbalize the few of things which are important. The most important challenge, which we ignored over a period of time, is the access. And the COVID-19 in the last 8-9 months have exposed us uh, that the access is a real issue. So also that the time for encounter. So getting the salesperson in front of a right doctor is a challenge, and for a right amount of time is a challenge. But once if you're there, what is the impact you're going to create? So if you're as we have seen few examples, that is there going to be impact, or are you just looking at the numbers, the quantity, and not looking at whether those will lead to that residual message in customer mind and things like that? We are not really sure. I'm not sure that if that is what that we call it a personal selling. If there's an opportunity to understand customer perspective or with a very active or engaging dialogue with the customer, or is there something that we are enhancing the experience of customer, right? The other very important challenge is that how do we coordinate between the multiple lines? Each company or majority of companies, those who are mid-size or a big-size companies, have a different businesses, different sales lines, different things, and many cases that we don't know that if we know that what is our right hand is doing and what is our left hand is doing. So these different multiple units or multiple lines are meeting the same customer, but we don't know that what each other are doing. So is there a way that we synergize and what we can do in this regard? So, and that's where that that we introduced to you this framework. And this started, I think, that when we asked this very simple question, which is what that years back one of my professor introduced to me. I said that when they meet the sales lead, they ask this question: how do you know when you have a sales organization or successful sales organization? And as expected, that majority of time, the answers revolves around what they are being measured, which is what the sales. So you say that we are on budget, we are growing faster than our competitors, our market share growth is better, and our profitability and the cost is in line with our peers. Now, nothing wrong, because that these are very objective. You can't really debate, and these are solid indicators. But one thing about this is they all represent what has already happened, and using them as a predictor that what is going to happen in the future might be a little risky. Uh, so, what is a better way around? So, when you uh, possibly that ask them further on this question, they start thinking. And a moment back, uh, some people at least that reflect, they talk about customer loyalty, how many successful customers they have, how they are retaining their loyal customers, uh, and how the entire thing is able to, over a period of time, improve their customer experience. Now, most of the business objective, when you look at that, the purpose of business, as Peter Drucker says, is to acquire and retain a customer. And that's more predictable way into success. There are smarter companies, those who have measures in place like Net Promoter Score, and they really look at that and make the Net Promoter Scores more actionable by having a customer dialogue and things like that. And those are wonderful ways of looking at that. So what's important that when you look at a diagnosing a problem, you always start with results and not the other way around. So if you really look at that, how the diagnosis works is absolutely opposite of the causality. And that's where that we must understand that each factor. And this framework, if you are really trying to understand that what you're doing is good or your strength and what possibly need to improve, possibly that a healthy amount of diagnosis will always help, irrespective of what position in the hierarchy of Salesforce or company you are in. It's very important that this is a oversimplified tool that might help you that what you need to change, right? And how one part work with another in a seamless fashion or impacts the other in a seamless fashion. So it's very important, and that's where that we are going to focus a little bit of time. Having said that, the customer experience, I think that this is also important to look at that the many companies would like to do what we call it is a lip service. So they talk about that our highest priority is satisfying our customer. But then there is a caveat that comes, except when it is hard or unprofitable or we are busy. Now, that's not what really that customer loyalty can be gained. And that's the reason that the other point that which is important is that, do you have a measure, do you have a KPI which you actively track, which tells you about that the customer satisfaction, especially that customer retention or the loyalty of customer retention part, which is absolutely important. As we move to the second part in this chain is the Salesforce activities. Now, which is important. Now we are getting into more operational areas. And please understand here, uh, when we look at that, uh, in a simple environment, what gave us or what Salesforce activity gave us success, some of those activities may not be applicable today in a complex environment. As the complexity has increased, possibly we need to redesign or rethink about the Salesforce activities. And especially that we are talking about that how the Salesforce time is allocated effectively against high quality activities that drives value. And this value is not that what we believe is the value, but this value is something that our customer perceive as a value. Right. It's also important to look at that no company has capacity to serve all its customers. So how do we really look at the segmentation and targeting piece, understanding that which customer, what is our position, and how we are going to satisfy that. Uh, in order to get all this insight, you need to have or invest into something called a good customer relationship management system, MIS system, which gives you insight and tells you that what is working, what is not working. I think that campaign management, most of the marketing effectiveness piece is missing. Many organizations have no tool to effect to understand the marketing effectiveness. Now, a good CRM system not only helps you understand that, but in a digitalized world, possibly that a CLM or closed loop marketing helps you to very clearly understand that whether your value propositions also valued by your customers or not, and having a very good idea that what's working, what's not working. Performance management system, and it's very important to look at that. In the last 8 months, I think that many companies that they shifted their goals. They have redesigned their KPIs very differently than what it is. They focus on building the capabilities in a digital world, and possibly that when you're engaging customer remotely, you require a different set of skills, especially that when it comes to communication. When you are meeting customer not in person, the communication need to be very different. So what are the things that you need to be cautious of? What are the things that which might work? And that's where that you need to skill up or reskill your people, those who are in customer facing role and using a in you know not in person selling or remote selling. So how do you look at those things, and how ultimately that you're looking the entire performance management system? Resource allocation is very important. We know that different territories have a different potential. Mostly that I don't come across many companies those who systematically do a balancing of territories and things like that. But then when you look at that, the resources, especially in primary care, that everybody has the same resource. Uh, so somewhere that we are over serving our customer and somewhere else that we are underserving our customers. So look at the resource allocation piece very, very carefully. The other part is that alignment between marketing and sales. And let me just possibly that come back to this point a little later, but this is very important point. And how our compensation incentives, which is very important to have a highly motivated sales force, how we design the incentive programs that drives focus on a right set of behaviors and not only that results and things like that, because those behavior will get you possibly more sustainable results. That brings me to another point, and that's where that we are talking about the quality of our sales force. So here, look at that the sales activities, and I think that this is also equally true when we look at that the most discussion. Every step of sales process went perfectly, except the part where the customer buys our product. So I think that it's very important to understand and not just replicate what we were doing earlier and force fit into our change world today and try and see that those things work. I think that there's a good amount that we need to rethink about that. Let's look at that the sales force. I think that couple of points important here. One is that over a period of time that we have seen the dilution in terms of the hiring process, and that's something that and this is what that again the data tells me that the first year attrition in almost every company is very high, and if that you have not able to retain your new rep even for a year or even for 6 months, that tells you only few things: either that you are hiring a wrong person in a wrong job, or you do not have a good onboarding and training, right? Or your other processes are not incorrect that help the rep to retain the job. So it's very important to have a competent, motivated sales force, and more important is to establish a winning sales culture, and that's something that automatically drives that people to perform or go out of the way to do something that which gives company results. Most of the smart people in this business, they have a clear understanding that what competencies will help them win in that in the current situation, right? So competencies required is different than what competencies were earlier that was important. And how do we know that what competencies these are, right? How do we looking those competencies while hiring the right people? What kind of onboarding or learning and development is there? And more importantly, the sales managers, how the managers is helping and supporting their teams. And it's very important. It's often said that people don't leave organization, they leave their managers. So the role of sales manager becomes very, very critical here, especially when it comes to coaching, supporting, retaining the people, and really, really that making them perform well. Then, as we look at that, I think that it's important to look at that Salesforce effectiveness drivers. And when we talk about Salesforce effectiveness driver, uh, again, that we are talking about that some of the elements that we have already spoken about, but roughly that I have worked with anything about 15 different Salesforce drivers. Some of them are listed here, some of them we have already discussed earlier. Uh, it's important for the leaders to understand that what is the most important Salesforce effectiveness driver, and that's where that our focus should be, right? Whether it is the sales processes, what kind of channels that we use. We all know that you can't just put everything on your sales people, the customer facing people, right? You need to support them with the various channels, right? And I think that they need to graduate into a role that where they are able to orchestrate different channels in an appropriate way, depending upon the individual preference of our customers. So look at that over a period of time, and especially now, I think that many of the sales roles have changed. The expectation or customer expectation has changed. Are we really trying to see that how this change in the Salesforce role or customer expectation from the rep has changed, and how we are equipping our sales force or supporting them to perform better in the new role. Um, what kind of size and the structure? We are still a largely a share of voice market. So these are very important. But then I think that unnecessarily that having a huge or mega sales force, which over a period of time that has given us results, uh, is there a time to really have a relook, and how do you really optimize in terms of making much more effective, right? So also the management role, and I think that something that which I'm I'm personally that critical is that sometimes there are too many layers, and each layer, uh, that make your communication uh, ineffective, because that your communication need to now penetrate those concrete layers in order to reach the end person, and there's a distortion that in communication. So there's a role pollution. So it's very important that how do we look at the management roles and how they are changing, and how possibly that can we, if it is a specialized force, can we make it more flatter, right, and the more effective in terms of your communication, reaching communication without diluting the message. And finally, that how do we look at the deployment as a very, very important piece. So this is something that which is very, very vital. And finally, and I think that there's a most important part is that how do you look at the sales and marketing strategies, and especially that your sales strategies and marketing strategies are well aligned, or they are into two different directions, right? So ultimately, that is there a very clear value proposition, right? Is based on that customer and competitor insights, and many times that we all know that how difficult it is to spend time and research in getting those right insights. uh, so whole thing about is that in sales and marketing strategies is understanding that where we want to play and how do we win there. What is that very clear value proposition? And the other important factor is that what you're aspiring to be, right? And there is that drives that your organization, entire organization, to mobilize and that go all out and hit those things. So this is a framework, which is the 5 points that when you look at that, is something that which need to be very well integrated and aligned in order to really understand that how do we effectively put this framework into practice. And that's where that we talk about that when we look at this framework, and when you build a successful sales organization, you need to have a well aligned sales and marketing strategies, which has a consistent focus on the right salesforce driver. uh, if you have a competent, motivated sales force working in a successful sales culture, and Salesforce time is allocated in a high quality activities that brings a value to your customer experience. And finally, that if you have a right measurement that how the Salesforce efforts is evaluated and rewarded, I think that's where the success of a sales organization lies. Now, the issue is that how do you put this into practice? And let me just make few attempt that what you need to do. Uh, Irrespective of what position you have, whether you're a customer-facing role, a rep, a first-line manager, or a sales manager, or a marketing product manager, or a marketing manager, or a functional head, or even a leadership team, asking the right question will help you understand where the problem is. And each question, so if you are diagnosing, you start with the results, right? And you look at that, what's wrong with the result. What you need is that facts and data, right? Sales below budget, productivity is low, customer loyalty is low. Okay, what is that the reps doing? What are the activities they're doing? Not enough quality of calls, rep times spent in admin work, right? So each step or each data will give you insight that either need to be supported or corrected, right? uh, Rep attrition is high, competencies, certain things, that is especially that what we find in today's time is that Many companies have not trained their reps adequately in terms of that. How do you do the remote calls? And I'll come back to some of the examples in this point. Uh, Salesforce effectiveness drivers, too frequent changes in the territories, structure, and deployment. And look at that. I think that top of it is that when you look at sales and marketing strategies, portfolio has shifted, delayed response to COVID challenge. We continue to do what possibly gave us success in the past, and we rely on those time-tested methods, and that might have that failed to initiate the right action at the right time. So that's where that you start looking at this five-dimensional model into Salesforce effectiveness, and see that how each model is interconnected. And I think that that's possibly the most important part of it, that when you look at that, how that our strategies define the roles, territories, and selling process, what kind of skills and capabilities you require in the right people, um, how you are hiring them, and how you're that making these guys more impactful in terms of their everyday work and the activities, what you're doing to keep them motivated and highly engaged is very important. And finally, that look at that, how you're supporting that. Now, many times when the sale doesn't come, the blame squarely comes on the salespeople. Now, if you look at here, neither salespeople or their manager have a role to play in every of these five-dimensional models. So, what I'm trying to emphasize on, your focus of different function uh, need to be there in order to make salespeople successful in your organization. If you're not able to do certain things in a right time, possibly that it would be very difficult to for a salesperson to be successful in this highly complex and competitive marketplace. So it's very important that as an organization-wide culture of supporting the salespeople or sales force to perform better, you require certain things or rethink on certain actions. So that's what that this five-dimensional model talks about in terms of how to improve the effectiveness of the sales force. The other part that we talk about, that how do you look at the sales and marketing effectiveness? And that's I think that many of us, we know that the right customer with the right message, with the right salespeople, right amount of time, the right frequency, and this is something that which is important. But then how do you integrate? So how do you, when you look at that, the marketing strategies, are the marketing strategies revolve around uh, completely that the right segment, or the positioning or branding, the core message, and the promotional plan, and how the sales strategies or sales execution revolves around these, and how these two things have a complete well oiled and very well integrated machine. Any of these things missing will have an impact on the results, and that's something that which possibly that we all need to understand and work on. Okay, so this is as we said, that we'll very briefly that talk about that our experience. So this is what that yesterday that Anup Sons posed a question, that what are the most effective preferred channels to engage SCPs in addition to face-to-face calls. And we had about 164 different respondents from very different roles, including sales and marketing and customer facing and various others. And these responses are gathered from LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and the CredoWeb. Uh, So obviously, as expected, and I think that majority people continue to use WhatsApp, mobile calls, and SMS, and 46% of them talk about that they are effective channels. A remote platform via prior prior appointment. I think that I'm going to talk a little bit more on this webinar and virtual conference and seminar. So these are something that which different people find effective in addition or supporting the face-to-face call. We did about a week back another survey which talks about the hybrid calls. Right, and hybrid is that you have face to face and you have the calls that which are remote or the virtual meaning. Uh, and we find that the majority of respondents talk about that you know the you have more time per call, but then very few call. Why? Because that many times it's difficult to get an appointment, and some of them felt that there is no difference. Now, what's important here, and I would give you that little bit background to this also, that uh, if uh, reps are highly skilled and able to get the call scheduled by understanding SCP's preference and challenge, they are able to engage the SCPs as much as 5 to 8 minutes more than face to face call. Now, this is important. And my interaction with, so about 3 weeks back, I was having a training program with one of the multinational organization and highly successful large multinational organization, and where that the people were across the organization. There were 50 of them, and I was talking to them. So I was kind of having 4 sessions spread across 2 days, and we had this discussion, and everybody talked about that how they have experienced the remote platform, and they have inbuilt companies remote platform to engage customer, and they talk about the quality of call. They say that uh, that the discussion is absolutely uninterrupted, and the doctors is participating, is more curious, they're asking questions, they are really showing all signs of engagement, and the timing of call is anything between 5 to 8 minutes more than face to face call. And that's how that we thought of the coming across the different people and say that let's see that what are the other people experience, and we find that there's a good response of 18.4%. In addition to 35% they spoke about the same aspect. The key here is that the calls need to be pre-scheduled, and rep need to be skilled in understanding the SCP's preferences and challenges so that he can uh, uh, really engage the SCPs in a meaningful conversation with a relevant conversation. Now that's something that which is hugely important. Now, is this a too much of a challenge for an organization to skill or reskill or upskill the sales force to really graduate to that level where they are able to do that? Or still that hope, if we don't change anything, something magical will just happen? I leave it to you. Thank you very much for your attention, and certainly that I would be very happy to support you. Should there be any questions, discussion forum is a huge opportunity and a great platform to really interact and learn together. Thank you very much, and wish you all the best.